Hello and good morning, everyone. I think it's a great day for a webinar from the comfort. Hopefully, you're somewhere warm and dry. I'm going to let people roll into the room as we get started here. I am. Wait, let me see how I do this. I am recording this. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. Um, let's see, I would do this, then go over here. It's always a little clunky. Let's see, I am going to monitor the Q&A for questions. If there's other issues, you can drop them into the chat. I think the Q&A is working. Last time I forgot to turn it on, so hopefully it's working this time. And we can go ahead and get started. Yeah, if you have any questions, just drop them in the Q&A. Where did that go? It's always so strange when you've got, if you can't see or hear me, please let me know, drop that in the chat, and then put your questions in the Q&A. This is a webinar just for anybody who, if you're new to Bluegrass Gives, if you yourself, you or your organization, or if you just want a refresher, we're just going to go in depth into a lot of the stuff about Bluegrass Gives, how it works, how you can update your profile, things like that. The Q&A keeps disappearing, but there it is. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump in. Again, what we'll cover, just a 101 refresher, how to complete your profile, how to set goals, what those should be, what those would look like for your organization, how to engage volunteers, outreach, tactics, and donor stewardship. And then, of course, we'll have some time for Q&A. So we're just going to do a quick refresher on Bluegrass Gives, how it works, what to expect, etc. The key dates for 2025, early giving will start November 25th at 9 a.m. and it will last until the main event on Giving Tuesday, December 2nd at 6 a.m. So the site will remain open for donations that whole time. What the difference is that matches and prizes kick in at 6 a.m. on Giving Tuesday. So starting on November 25th at 9 a.m., the donate button will be live. Folks can make donations. It just won't be matched. There won't be any prizes, things like that. So those all start on Giving Tuesday this year. Last year, the past couple years, we had a match for early giving, but we're not doing that. We're really focusing all the energy on Giving Tuesday. And the matches and prizes will run from 6 a.m. till midnight, not continuously. There will be different things at different times, etc. But that's when the main event will end, and then the site will remain open for donations until 9 a.m. on Friday, December 5th. For those who have been around, you will know the Good Giving Challenge used to be like 6 weeks long, maybe 2 months. I'm not sure, I wasn't there. I'm thankful for that. That would be exhausting. And then it's sort of, we've whittled it down over the years. It's been 4 weeks, then 1 week, and then 4 days. And then this is the first year it's 1 day. Because of that, we're keeping that site open until Friday. So that would be like how it would have worked last year. And just in case there's any stragglers, but again, there just won't be matching or prize opportunities after Giving Tuesday. But the site will remain open for donations until Friday, December 5th at 9 a.m. How those donations work. So those, to be eligible for matches, prizes, to be added to your fundraising total, those gifts must be made online via bggives.org. Different ways we're able to accept payment, donations, credit or debit card, ACH, so that's like bank account. So the credit or debit cards, those are processed via Stripe. That's that third-party payment processor. ACH is processed by Plaid. That's that service, super secure. And then they can also give with a BGCF donor advised fund. if your donors have a donor advised fund at BTCF, they can give using that. We also do a lot of promotion to our donor advised fund holders about Bluegrass Gives and the organizations that participate. Depending on the browser that your donors are logged into, they can give via Apple Pay, Google Pay, or Microsoft Pay. I never heard of that one, but that is also available. I guess if you use like Microsoft Edge or something like that. That if you have your payment information, your credit card information saved in those programs, then you can check out using that. We are not able to accept paper checks, stock gifts, IRA distribution things, commercial donor advised funds like Fidelity, Schwab, things like that. We're not able to accept those gifts. Why that is with the donor advised funds for Fidelity, Schwab, things like that, we aren't able to verify the amounts that are in those donor advised funds. We don't have access to that information. So we had some questions about this last year. So, I mean, a donor could say they're going to give $1 million. Well, we can't have no way of verifying that. What our team does with their donor advised fund at BGCF, we verify that those funds are available before we make those fund transfers. So that's just how that works. If you have donors who really want to give using those methods, you can reach out to us. We can get creative. Maybe they can provide a match to you. If they want to set up their own charitable fund at BGCF, we can help process that. But right now through the site, we're not able to accept these types of gifts at this point. I think they used to accept paper checks. It's really hard to do because of the timing of matches and prizes. We're not able to verify the timing and things like that. So, okay, so I got a question about what a donor advised fund is. So part of what Bluegrass Community Foundation does is we provide opportunities for folks to get involved in the community. Part of what we do though is a charitable bank. So donors have their own, it's like a charitable checking account, sort of like a bank account at BGCF. So we're able to take those funds, we hold take that money, donations, people can give stock, any sort of gift, real estate, whatever. We convert that to money, I guess, and then we hold those funds. We have over 800 charitable funds right now, nearly, I think, 900 charitable funds. So those can be set up by individuals, families, businesses, nonprofits have funds here. I can send out information in a separate email that talks more about what donor advised funds are. There's different tax benefits, things like that. I can explain that. Like my family has a donor advised fund. So we make a deposit into our donor advised fund. You could say what we do is we sort of set a giving budget for the year. We'll put that money into that account. So it's nice that we have one tax receipt from giving to our donor advised fund. And then from there, we kind of send the money out to different nonprofits. So donors are able to make gifts to different nonprofits whenever they want to from the money that they put in that donor advised fund. I don't know if that exactly answers the question. We have some materials that we can share about that. There are fees assessed on those donor advised funds, small fees just for like asset management, things like that. It is less than the credit card processing fees. So that is sort of an answer to that. But that's a great point, and I will send information out about that to the group. Okay. So how donations work, donations during Bluegrass Gives are made to Bluegrass Community Foundation. So for your donors on their checking, their bank statements, their credit card statements, it will look like a gift to Bluegrass Community Foundation. Then we in turn write draft checks to you all and grant out to the nonprofits participating. That's what we do all the time. It's sort of like standard for us. So if your donors are confused, it's a gift to Bluegrass Community Foundation, then we grant it out to you. Those donations are 100% tax deductible. This means no quid pro quo. So You can't offer, like if there was like an NPR pledge drive, they might say if you give at this level, you can get a tote bag, things like that, or a sticker or whatever. You just can't offer that because we send the donors a tax receipt immediately upon their gift. And that means we would have to deduct the amount of the benefits that they would get in exchange for those donations, and we're not doing that. So the gifts are 100% tax deductible. We grant all of those gifts back out to you. So less the fees that donors may not cover. I'll get into that next. But we're just sort of like a pass through to you for those donations. Like I said, the donors get an immediate tax receipt via email. So you can send a gift acknowledgement and thank yous, but not a tax receipt. I got some questions about this during one of the training sessions. An organization, it turns out, because of how their CRM works at the end of the year, they were accidentally sort of like sending a duplicate tax receipt for the gifts made during Bluegrass Gives, or the Good Giving Challenge as it was last year. So you just need to be careful not to send an additional tax receipt for these gifts, because then your donors could, it's just not accurate. So we encourage you to send gift acknowledgements, but not a tax receipt. So that makes it really nice for you. If you don't have systems in place where you can issue those tax receipts, things like that, we take care of all that admin for you. So you'll just get that check and you'll be able to okay, so I got a question. A donor using a Hotmail email address never received the tax receipt emails for their gift. I don't think that's an issue with Hotmail, and I haven't used that. Sometimes donors mistype their email addresses, like it does happen. If you have specific donor information, we can go in and do some investigation, and you're able to do that too. I don't think that's an issue with Hotmail. I can investigate. But sometimes they do, there are just like typos, it happens. And we can resend those receipts and correct any typos that might happen, or find another way to send it. But I don't think Hotmail is blocked as a whole. I can investigate, but I've not heard of that. So I'm going to write that down. But if you have a donor that says they didn't get a tax receipt after the event, let us know and we can do some investigation into that. It does happen though, like if there's a little typo in their email address when they check out, they won't get that receipt. Or it could go into their junk sometimes. Like we can do some investigation, but if you just let us know, we can look into it. And it's not even too late. I mean, now it would do no good for their tax receipts, I guess, for last year, but I'm kind of curious about that. Okay, so getting into more details about the donations. There are minimum donation amounts. For a debit or credit card gift, it is $10. For ACH, it is a $100 minimum donation. And for donor advised fund at BGCF, it's also a $100 minimum. This is for that total cart amount. So if you have donations, if a donor is giving $25 to 4 different organizations and they want to use their ACH, use their checking account, that would be an option. If they were giving $25 to just one organization, that would not be an option. Same with the donor advised fund. There is no maximum donation. I kind of joke. It's true. It happened. There was a $100,000 donation one year that came through the site on a credit card. That's sort of unbelievable. It's only happened once that I've seen, but I've seen, there are thousands of dollars of donations that can be processed. So there's no maximum donation, and those minimum donation amounts are because of the different credit card fees. I think I see, I'm sorry, I'm at home, and if my dog starts barking, I think there's somebody coming to the door. So I apologize if he starts barking. Please ignore him. Transaction fees. So the minimum donation amounts for the ACH, it's because of this fee. just how they're structured. The credit card fees, 2.8% platform fee plus 30 cents per transaction and a 2.2% transaction fee for Stripe. So that comes out to 5% plus 30 cents. This is pretty standard. Actually, this is lower. We negotiated this rate when we engaged with this platform provider. This is just, I mean, listen, I just bought something on Eventbrite, tickets to a conference. I had to pay a fee on that. Like, I think donors are pretty used to seeing these fees. It's just like a way of life now. You know, you go to a restaurant, you see like a 2 or 3% credit card fee. It's just a way of life. ACH is a little different. It's a platform fee of 2.8% plus a $3 flat bank fee. So that's why the ACH minimum donation is $100 just because of the math on that. Don't ask me to do it. That's just to make it cost effective for everyone. For a BGCF donor advised fund, those donors do not pay a fee on their gifts. That's because we do behind the scenes sort of like fund transfer from one fund to the Bluegrass Gives fund, and then we grant it out. So we don't have to go through these platforms to do that. The good news is donors can cover fees at checkout, and the vast majority do. Like, I would say 80% of donors cover fees at checkout. I mean, if I'm giving $100, what's like $5 more, right? And I know that that means that 100% of my donation goes to the nonprofit. And there is a checkbox at checkout, and I will demo that. I'll show you what that looks like. As soon as we are done with this presentation, I'll go to the site and do a little demo. That is pre-checked. So a donor would have to uncheck that to take the fees off. So that's how that works. So then when you get your payment, your check from us after the conclusion of everything, you would see if there's any fees that we have to take out of that fundraising total because of donors not paying the fees. And you'll also see, and I can show you this on the site as well, I do in the demo, you can see a breakdown on the site for your donors list, how much they gave, did they cover the fees, what the fees were, et cetera. So when you get your check from us after the conclusion of this, that will be next year. This is just always how it works out. It's a little funky, maybe your first year, you're not quite used to it, but it always works out that it has to come that next month of the following year. Why is that? We have to wait a couple weeks for those transactions to clear. So first of all, we don't even get a payout from GiveGab for, I think, until that following Friday, because they can process refunds, and it happens. People dispute things. They ask for refunds, whatever. They can only process those within 5 days on the site. So they have to wait a week to pay us. So we don't even get a lump sum payout from them until, I want to say, December 12th. It could be that following Monday, the 15th. I'm not quite sure. So then we have to still wait a couple weeks to make sure there are no failed transactions, no disputes. It happens every year. Donors will dispute donations, and GiveGab will handle those disputes for us, but every now and again they will lose that dispute, and then we have to pay that back to the donor. So if we were to give you your check right away, and then a donor 3 weeks later issues a dispute, then we would be out that money because we've already paid you. So we just have to wait a few weeks for those transactions to clear. I don't know, it happens. And so then after that point, that's when the finance team, we just make sure all of those donations that were there, they're still there, that were matched and everything. So they don't even start calculating those matches and finalizing that information until after those 2 weeks, after we get that lump sum payout, after those, we have that 2-week period. So that's like at the end of December. Then we've got the holidays, etc. So there was like 1 year, our whole office got the flu. So we just cannot get those done by the end of the year. I know that that you all are antsy to get those by the end of the year. It just does not happen that way. So you'll get those checks mid-January 2026. And I actually heard there was a very a nonprofit representative who was very positive She said it's actually nice because January can be a little slow in terms of donations. I mean, most people give in December, that year-end giving bump. It's kind of nice to get that in January when donations have slowed down. So I thought that was a nice spin on it. So then enclosed with your check, you'll get a letter that details any matches or prizes that were added to your fundraising total. So like you'll see your fundraising total online, and then any matches or prizes that would be added to that. Some of those are added in real time and some of those aren't. So you'll get a breakdown of all those. It won't be, you'll never know exactly which donations are matched. We don't disclose that information. But you'll be able to see like a lump sum. Oh, we received so many dollars from like the Marksbury Family Foundation match period, or the Brown Foundation match period. Like you'll get a lump sum of that amount, and then the prizes and things like that. And then it'll be a breakdown of any fees that were not covered by donors. And you can access donation and donor information online at any time. Like you will see it come in live as donations start coming through, and you can access that at any time. You can still access that donor information from last year on your account. You can get that at any time. When we send that letter that includes your check, we do not send you donor information. That would just be a spreadsheet. Like you can go in, and I will do a demo and export that at any point. So we don't send that to you. That's on you to access. Oh, something to add. Well, one thing you won't be able to see on donation and donor information is if a donor gives anonymously, and they have that option. If a donor gives anonymously, you'll see the donation amount, but not who gave. And I know when you send thank yous, we'll get requests for that information. That was their wish, and we have to honor that wish that the donor wants to remain anonymous. So that's actually one of I think the benefits that some donors really like, is giving through this program, through this initiative, that they can still remain anonymous. So you won't be able to see that donor information, but anybody else you can see. So getting into, just making sure there's no questions. No. Getting into your nonprofit profile, and then we'll do a little demo here. So one thing you'll need to do every year, if you've participated last year, you'll still have to either add new information or copy last year's information. There's sort of, and I used, at the time I used step by step as an example because they had all this information already plugged in. There are sort of 5 key elements to your nonprofit profile. So the nice thing about with Bluegrass Gives, there's one big website that has 230 nonprofits on that, but you sort of have your own mini website on that page, right? So this is really your opportunity to get in there and tell your story, share information about what your organization does, how donations make an impact, etc. So there are sort of 5 key elements that you're going to want to make sure that you have there. You can add a cover photo. You need to add your logo if you haven't already. Plug in those giving levels, and we'll get into that. I've already had a question about if you're allowed to use the giving levels. Absolutely. You can add videos, pictures, and your story. That's text. So let me exit out of this and then go to just drop in the chat. I think I'm sharing my GiveGab admin dashboard. Let me know if you can't see that, but hopefully that's what you can see. So Bluegrass Community Foundation, we have a profile in GiveGab because we receive the payout, like that's just it. And right now we're showing up as an organization participating. We do not collect donations during Bluegrass Gives. So don't see that and think, why is Bluegrass Community Foundation in it? We hide our profile when giving starts so that folks can't give to us during Bluegrass Gives. So don't worry about that. But right now I have it in there, especially it's nice because I can do demos through this profile. I can also show another one, but that one has live donor information. I don't want to do that. So when you would log in to your page, okay. If you have participated in multiple years, so you can see, you would have last year's information. You can go in and see the donations from last year. This is just a test donation. So So you could still go in and look at different years. Every year that you've participated, you could go on and see that information. Just be sure that when you are updating your profile that you're in Bluegrass Gives 2025. I just would hate for you to go in. I was accidentally doing that on something else when I was updating like the main website. I realized I was in Good Giving Challenge 2024. So you want to make sure you're in Bluegrass Gives 2025. So you can see here your admin dashboard. We just did that. So you're going to want to go to Giving Days, Bluegrass Gives 2025. So add your organization's info, and I'm really in the basics here. So just bear with me. So this is where you're going to add that logo. Select your image. You know, you would just upload something from your computer, online, wherever you keep your images. So here's just a note. So like, I will uncheck that for the giving day, but right now we're there. If you get an error as you're updating this, make sure it's 5. I don't even know what MB. I don't know what that is. It's a size. Is it megabytes? I don't know. It's none of my business. So just make sure it's under that size, and then it's this type of file. And if you don't have the right dimensions on your logo, something that I do pretty often, if I need to edit the size of a logo, like our logo is a little rectangular, I will go to Canva and I will just like create like a logo. You can see that's square, and I'll just like drop our logo. I have tons of logos in here. Hopefully you're able to see all I'm doing here. I'll just add our logo in like that, make it sort of as big as I can within that area. I like to make sure and we can do a separate session on Canva if you all would like. I'm happy to do that in like November as we get closer. So then I'll do that, export that, and then upload that to the site or wherever I need to do that. I do that quite a bit. It's a really easy way to get your logo to fit in there. Okay, so then these are optional. These are more detailed, and I would say like more, nuance isn't the word, more specific than the causes. In the past, like we've sort of used 8 different cause areas. These are more specific, but you can, add these 3 in there. These would just be, I think, let me go. If you're doing a search, yeah, you folks could filter by, I don't know why that's not, I think that would be a drop down later. Maybe, I don't know why that's not an option. But you can add those causes. People can search by those causes as well. All right, so you would save that. Get into add your story. So this is where you can add your customize that cover photo. So again, we're getting into these recommended dimensions. You could just take your image. You could create something new in Canva just for this. You could use something sort of standard that you might use on like a Facebook profile, things like that. So again, it's just as easy as select an image. I don't really want to do that. I don't have anything keyed up. So you would just upload that. I mean, I might have, I don't know. I don't have anything handy. You get the point. So then you can set a goal. This is a really nice tool. So if you have a goal this is not a match, this is just your fundraising goal. So if you had a fundraising goal of $5,000 for the event and you want to save that display that on your profile, I wonder if I do have something here that I can. I'll use that. I don't know what that is. Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll just pretend. And so you can see that's not really like the right dimensions. I could just go in and update that in Canva. But there you go. You can see how easy that is. And then this is where you can tell your story. So this would be just like text. You can use information from your website about your organization. You can talk about what you will specifically use funds from Bluegrass Gives to help support. You can really put anything in here. And one thing I would notice is here, you can, I would clear the formatting and then you can, that's this. So if you want to I can show you BGCF. Um, uh, if you're not seeing the add your story or the other feature options, you might not be in the giving day. Hang on one second. Let me copy this. So if I were just to copy this here, and then put that in right here. So you can see that keeps that formatting from our website. But if you do that, that will clear that formatting and then, that will keep the site looking clean. And then, I mean, if you want to use specific formatting from your website or that works with your brand style, that's fine. But here, there's different things like you can do a header, you can play around with it. You can add links to any of the text. You could add a link here. You can just play around with this. We have so much time, 56 days, I think. So you can play around here. You can add photos. Again, you just choose a picture. Not sure what these images are. So I hate to do something that's super weird. Let's see, getting parked. Okay, we'll just pretend. So you can see there, you can just add in photos right there. You can add keywords there. You can add, this is really nice. So that step-by-step image that I shared in the presentation, you can add, it's so easy to add video to this. You can just go to your YouTube channel. Your videos. You need to make sure that the videos on your Vimeo or your YouTube are public. You don't want to do you can't link a private video. So you need to make sure it's publicly viewable. So then you would go here, easily add that, just copy that link and then save. And then this is going to look so strange because it's not what we do. It's not our full information. So, okay. So then you could see here, once you update this information, if you want to see how it looks, just click that view your profile and then you can see how that all looks right there. I mean, this is terrible. This is not what I would normally do, right? Because you can't see that copy, but you can play around with those things and just update it, see how it looks, and then go back to it. So you can see here our story that added the video that I linked to, it added the photo that I added there. You can see that formatting was a header, all that. So you can really just get in there and play around with it. And I think the nice thing is too, you can kind of look and see what other organizations are doing, but make it your own, right? But you have time to play around. If you're not seeing the add your story or other feature options, I think you're not in the right giving day. So you need to make sure, see, if I'm right here, I can't see that information, but if I go to the Bluegrass Gives 2025, I can see that there. So the donation levels. This is something that you can do. So I wonder, so you can see right here, I don't have those added right now. I'm gonna have to delete all this. This looks so bad, but you can see I don't have those giving levels right now. So your donors can always click on donate, and this is going to take them to a please come back later button, but they would have to actively click that donate button. But you can see here, this is a profile that I just pulled up. Allegro Dance Project already has all this information up there, right? So you can see here by having those giving levels, this is sort of pre-populated amounts for what donors can click on. So if they click on that 80, again, you're going to get an error message because giving isn't open yet. But it sort of already has those giving levels open. Otherwise, if it was time to give, they would have to plug in that amount. So what I would do is think about, one, if your donor, look back at past donor information, how much those donors are giving. Like if you have $10, that's the minimum gift. I mean, you can say what $10 can do. It's not going to be able to do much. But this is cute, $12 to celebrate our 12th season. That's a really cute option. If you did $25, $50, like whatever amounts you think are appropriate, and then sort of say like what those gifts can help accomplish, what that impact would be. And then I would include some as a stretch goal. Like, don't just say, I'm sorry, I just hit my microphone. Don't just say, 12, don't stop here, right? Like they went as high as $320. Provide some stretch goals, because what if I was going to give, 50, and then I see here, oh, this is $80 and I can do this with that gift. Um uh so yeah, if you're having issues, just email me after this webinar, because I won't be able to see your screen right now. So yeah, you can, if you are having specific issues, just email me after the webinar, and then we can get into that. So yeah, just make sure, I would look at the donor info, like your historical donation info, and then provide some stretch goals. So you can get in there and customize that. So the nice thing is you can do the same thing, sort of, you can see what Allegro Dance Project did here. They added photos for different giving levels. You can really customize those in so many different ways. And then I don't know who else has them. They don't have them yet. I was trying to see what it looks like if you don't 10. So if you don't add anything there, what does that look like? That's just what it looks like. So put some photos in there. You could even create different graphics in Canva. You could get as creative as you want, I guess. You can use photos, you can create graphics. I'm sure that it gives you parameters on all this. 5 MBs, whatever that is, recommended dimension. So you could go into Canva and, say do create, and then you could customize that custom size, 600 by 400. And then you could create a new design and then say $10. And then you could have what it does, like, or you could have a picture there, like you could do whatever you want. So you can get creative there, and then add a description of support kids, yay. But then you can see here, it would be nice to have that image there. So you can add those donation levels. It says 3 or 4. If you get too many, then maybe it's confusing for donors, but include that stretch amount. Because maybe it might push them if they see if I was going to give 150, maybe I see what 200 can do. Maybe I'll be motivated to do that. So this is really cool. You can get in there and add a thank you message. So this is plugged into their email receipt that they get. And I would have to look in some of last year's receipts and see if I have examples, but you can, if a donor gives to more than one organization, I don't think they get these customized receipts. Like if I give to 5 organizations at one time, I don't think I get each one. But I think that if they're just giving to one, if they're just giving to one organization at a time, then they get that thank you message. But it's still a nice thing to do. So you can add copy, you can add a YouTube or a Vimeo link. And I think it might be really cute if you got some of your staff members or your board members to record a little thank you. Or you can add an image. You can't do a GIF. But you add an image, like what if you made a sign that says thank you, and your staff members were holding it up and it was in there? Or if you had like some of your clients or constituents, if you can share those photos. Like if you do a mentoring program and you're allowed to share those students' photos, it would be cute if the students held signs that said thank you. Or if it's like an animal shelter, put a thank you sign around under a dog or a cat or something. Like, get creative with that. I think that's a really cute way to customize this message. I don't want to say that. So I got a question about the add your story. Is it meant to highlight my organization and its work, or should it focus on a specific issue or cause we are advocating for? It can be either. Um, I'm assuming, I mean, there are some folks who are giving to a new organization for the first time. So this is a great way to find new donors and for donors to find new causes. So maybe, you know, a sentence or two that highlights what your work does, but I absolutely think it's okay to highlight specific programs that you do. And there's no word limit. So, you know, you could do a little bit of both. You don't want to make it too long. They're not going to read everything. But you could do both. Highlight certain programs. If you have like images or videos about certain programs, you can include a header on those and then say a little bit more about that. But it might not be a bad idea. I would keep a little sort of evergreen biographical information about what your organization does. So I think you can do both. The long answer is you can do both. Getting back in there, thank you message, give again. So we have an option if donors are not required to create an account on Bluegrass Gives or on this site. But if they do, and it's the only benefit to that would be like they can see historical donation information like in their account. So they're not required, but they can. If they have an account and they're logged into their account, they will get like sorry, that's my dog. They will get, there's a little like give again, they call it give a little more. So it is, they have the option to like repeat their gifts from last year. And I think it might add, like there's a give a little more option. I don't know what the percentage is. It might be like 10% more or something. It's just like add the little bump to what their gift was last year. So you can add features there as well. It would be just like, you know, these would be repeat donors. So you could say, thanks for your support in 2024. Here's what we have planned for 2025, something like that. And I can try to see if I can find a specific example of what that looks like. I'm going to write that down. And then I'm going to write down the thank you message examples. I would also say with the thank you message, for this feature, add a thank you message. I would also say, don't rely on that solely as your donor thank yous. And we'll get into donor stewardship a little bit. This is just like what they get right away. I would still do some follow-up, some thank you messages to those donors. So I wouldn't just rely on that. Okay, to update your profile, I guess I need to back up a little bit. So when you go to Bluegrass Gives, I gotta move that down. So you're gonna have to go to login. So should I log out? Okay, so you're gonna go to BG Gives. Let me go back here. And then go to login. And then I'm gonna log in here. Then you would go to your organization information. So you're gonna go to bggives.org, log in, and then update your information here. Does that make sense? So you're gonna go to bggives.org and log in to update your organization. And then you're gonna wanna make sure that you're in home and then your giving day for 2025. Because if you go just here, the general info, that's not that information that's going to show up on your profile. So if you just are logged in and you go to manage organization, these are important. There's some things that you need to do here too that I'll get to in a second, but the giving day profile stuff, that's here. Give again, and then the fundraisers. So there will be another webinar. It was supposed to be today. Long story short, we got a new project manager for GiveGab. Our new one wasn't able to do the webinar that was scheduled for today. It will be October 22nd. So those are all linked on the trainings page. We'll get more into P2P, peer-to-peer fundraisers. on that website. So you can, so your donors, again, so they would go to fundraise. If there's folks that you want to act as a fundraiser for you, and again, I don't want to get too into the weeds on the peer-to-peer fundraiser stuff, but they can sign up themselves here, go to your profile and click fundraise. You can also add them. So I think this would be a great option if you really want let me make sure I'm still logged on this. Yeah. If you really want your board members, for example, to have fundraising pages, I think it would really be nice if you can help create those fundraising pages for them. So you can add the name, you can add their information, and then, well, it's not going to let me do that, but you can kind of take that workload off them, but then have them customize it as they would like. But you can go on and get them set up. You can do that there. What else here? So that's the profile. Did I cover? I don't want to get too forget about what my presentation video picture story. All right. There are a couple other things here that we can get into. Giving days, edit information. So you can see here, I had a cover photo. Like I was on this page and updating my information, but that cover photo was not showing up on my giving page profile. So you really want to make sure that you're in this admin dashboard under giving days when you're updating that information, because otherwise it does not show up on your giving page. Edit information. So one thing you might want to think about is updating this information here. So last year, because the donations came to Bluegrass Community Foundation, and then we sent things, we grant to you all because my information was here, first and last name, email. All the tax receipts were coming from me, which was fine, but I was not sending the tax receipts. So any communication that sort of comes from you, your organization, you might want to make sure you have, I don't know, just take a look at that, because that's where like those thank you messages I think come from. And if you need to add administrators to your organization profile, this is where you'll do that. So like if there's team members who you want to be able to get in and update your profile, see donor information, this is where you would add them. Okay, you do not need to do bank account verification. This is where you'll be able to see your admin info, things like that. You don't have to do any of this other stuff. But then again, giving days, you can see there's more than one giving day. You can also see under reports, donations, you can see donations from last year. And you would be able to toggle between the two. Obviously, there's no donor information for this year. I'm just trying to look at questions. For any of the questions about the peer-to-peer fundraisers, these are pretty specific. I'm not sure. So let's hold those off until the peer-to-peer fundraiser on October 22nd. That one will be hosted by GiveGab, and they will know more about some of those specifics. So you might want to hold off for a couple weeks on getting those set up. When I add someone as an administrator, can they edit the giving day page as well? Yes, I believe so. It depends on what you can, these are different. I don't know what the difference between member and admin is. So I feel like admin is a little more permissions than giving day profile editor, but yes, they can, as long as I don't know what that one is, member. I'm gonna add that in and do some research on that. Admin member question mark. Listen, we're all learning, right? But yes, they can, if you add someone as an admin and they are either one of these two, they can update your your profile. So that can be great if you're lucky enough to have somebody on your team who can do marketing, design, communications, all that, you might want to add them so they can do that. That's great. Yeah, so like I said, you don't need to do bank account verification, things like that. So I'm going to go back to the presentation, I think. Okay, present. Okay, so your goals. You can see on that page where I was when it was, I think, pretty much at the top, you can add a goal there. So you don't have to add a goal. That would be but I think it's recommended, right? That on the site, that was a monetary goal, and that would be displayed, and I think it will show a sort of like progress to your fundraising goal. Um, so a fundraising goal in terms of dollars is a great goal if you have an established donor base. If you're an established organization, you participated in the past, or you've done fundraising events in the past, and you have an idea of how much you can typically raise in an event like this, and then you might want to add a little stretch goal to that, right? Like maybe you raised $5,000 last year, stretch it to 6,000 or 7,500. I would add a stretch goal to that. Or if you have a certain, campaign that you're thinking, we really want to do this sort of project, but we know that we need $8,000 to do it, you can have that be your goal. I would say, like, you might need to consider donor intent, if you switch gears and you don't spend the money on that goal. I don't know if that gets into an issue. That's between you and your donors, I think. But so a dollar goal, that would be a great time to have like a dollar monetary goal. But I think if you're a newer organization, maybe this is your first time participating, you don't have that established donor base and mailing list. You could have a goal of donors, like total number of donors. We would love to reach, 50 new donors this year. So I heard a cute phrase for this: a friend-raiser versus a fundraiser. So you're really working to establish your organization, establish that network, grow that network. That's a great time to think about a donor goal. I don't think there's a place on the site to list that, but you'll be able to see the number of gifts you've received from how many donors. So you'll get a donor count on your page. And then fundraisers, this is an effective tool if you have a large and or highly engaged constituent network. So that's just something to think about. If your goal is like, oh, well, we want to have, our goal is to get 25 fundraisers and we want to raise a certain amount for our fundraisers. And that really depends on the type of organization. Again, I don't want to get too much into the peer-to-peer fundraising. We'll get into that on October 22nd. But there are some organizations that really do well because of those fundraisers and those peer-to-peer fundraising goals that they set. And it could be for anything. There was one group last year, it was Civic Lex. What they did, I just want to give a shout out because I thought it was super creative. They had their staff, it's a small organization, a smaller staff. So I don't know how many staff they have, and I don't want to. It was super creative though. Each staff member designed a T-shirt that had to do with their mission, which is civic engagement. So each staff member designed a T-shirt, and they had a contest of whichever staff member raised the most money through their fundraising page. That was the T-shirt that they would print for donors, or I don't know what. It was so funny, and it actually inspired a lot of people to give, and like we were really rooting for certain T-shirt designs over others. I think their executive director won, so that's fair. But it was a really cute way to engage their donors, and then it gave them really silly things to post online about and to encourage donations via this little contest that they did. So you can get really creative. There's other nonprofits that they might have a staff member or a board member who, like, maybe their birthday is around this time of year, around Giving Tuesday. So they'll have like a birthday fundraiser, like, don't give, this is what, if it was me, this is what Lauren wants for her birthday, help her celebrate her birthday by making a donation to Bluegrass Gives. So you can get really creative with some different ideas and just have fun with it, whatever works best for your organization. But I would encourage setting a goal, because that's a great way to track your success year after year. And then again, when you're setting those goals, stretch. Don't set a goal that you're going to hit. It's not really a goal. That's just, that's just a fact. Stretch that goal and strive to surpass that. That'll help you get there. So some techniques that you can use to help encourage gifts and increase fundraising. So those peer-to-peer fundraisers, again, I keep saying it and then I keep saying we'll talk about it later. But that's a really great way. It's a way to if you have, like, there are some groups, it just works better for some organizations, but if you have really engaged donors or really engaged board, this is a great way. Um, Especially if those folks, it's always good if you're trying to build your network, your mailing list, things like that. Sometimes folks are a little hesitant to say, oh, here's a list of my 25 best friends. Please email them and ask for donations. Sometimes folks are a little hesitant to do that, but this is a great way that they can personally reach out to those friends, those family, those peers using their own thing. So they'll get their own little fundraising page. They'll be able to share that sort of on their own terms. Matches and challenges. So Bluegrass Community Foundation, we are still wrapping up and finalizing all of the matches that we provide during Bluegrass Gives. There will be, at least 500,000. I'm not sure what the final tally is. But we have matches and prizes that are available. We also encourage you all to get your own matches and challenges during Bluegrass Gives. And I'll go into, I think, a little bit more about that right now. Okay, so peer-to-peer fundraisers. I already sort of talked about this. This can be anybody, individuals. These are donors, your board members. If you, I know we have some like youth sporting leagues. If you want to have different teams, if there's like, I don't know what team, the Chargers, have that team do a fundraiser, have, team parent be involved with that one. Chargers versus the Rams. I don't know. You can make like a little friendly competition. Teams, if it's a school, get different classrooms, have them do different fundraising pages. I've seen, there's a school that did maybe like they needed a new sand, or a daycare or a preschool. They needed a new sandbox. So they had a fundraising page for a sandbox and things like that. It can be a great way to like itemize different needs that you have and how you can fundraise for those. And you can, with the peer-to-peer fundraisers, you can have incentives at different thresholds. So, and you can have a prize for the most raised. That's not the quid pro quo on donations. That doesn't in fact affect that tax, that deductible amount that they can, deduct on their taxes. So if you wanted to do a friendly competition for folks, whoever raises the most, like, I don't know, gets a gift card to coffee shop or something, like, you can do that with peer-to-peer fundraisers. So if you want to incentivize a little friendly competition, that's totally fine. With the matches. So you can, what I would say for getting your own matches, this can be a match based on dollars, donors, or donations. So look at, if you have donors in the past who have given, substantial gifts in the past, say, hey, we really appreciate your support in the past. Could we, if you are planning to make a donation again this year, and you could ask what the amount would be, if they had an idea, based on historical information, ask if they might be willing to put that up as a match. We have donors who know that they're going to support, and they come to us and ask how they can facilitate this, and we always help them, put them in touch with the nonprofit too, to make sure it's the best case scenario, but and how they would want to structure it, things like that. But if you have a donor who's pretty regularly given, I don't know, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever, ask if they might consider putting that up as a match to encourage other gifts. Maybe your board members, if your board members are required to give sort of a, minimum contribution every year, maybe you could pull those gifts together and say, hey, our board is issuing a match challenge for our donors for Bluegrass Gives this year. They'll match dollar for dollar up to $5,000 or whatever that pool of fund would be. You can, that would be a really fun way, if you're going to get those gifts anyway, it really can help leverage more donations. I heard a statistic, I'm part of a Giving Tuesday learning cohort, and they said like 80% of donors, I think the number might be 85% of donors are more likely to give if there's a match and they know that their gift will go even further. So that'd be a great way to incentivize that. And I'll jump over to the site to donate, to demonstrate this in a second. So you can do those as time sensitive or for the full campaign. You can set that as well. So a challenge, the difference between a match and a challenge would be a match is like based on, it could be dollar for dollar on gifts or things like that. A challenge sort of like unlocks a match, but after you get to a certain threshold. So like if we get 100 donors, we'll get $5,000 from this donor. Or it can be like a certain dollar amount. Like when we raise $5,000, we get $5,000. Whereas a match is like we match dollar for dollar up to $5,000. Does that make sense? I just saw a question come in. Okay, so there's a question about the matches. So to clarify, to restate it, Bluegrass Community Foundation, we have some matches lined up for you all. There'll be like a dollar for dollar match pool. That's $100,000, and you'll get all these parameters in a couple weeks. Like we have $100,000 match pool that opens at 9 a.m. We'll have one that starts at like 3 p.m. I don't know the exact details, but we encourage you to get your own match pools as well, because those match pools are really open to the pool, right? To the pool of nonprofits that are participating. You will do better as a fundraiser if you can get some matches lined up for your organization as well. So you would be responsible for setting up those matches that are available just to your nonprofit. But we have, like the Mark Sperry Family Foundation match pool, it's $100,000. It will open up at 9 a.m. on Giving Tuesday. Your donors' gifts can be eligible for that, but also that's open to all the 230 nonprofits participating. So we just encourage you to also get your own. And donors can write you a check after, they can write you a check before, they can make their gift of the match during the event, during the campaign online at BG Gives, and then maybe have you eligible for matches on top of that. So it's yes and no. Bluegrass Community Foundation, we get some foundations that we work with. We have some funds that have put in some dollars in the past, and we're working with them to do that again. But we encourage you to get your own matches as well. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the site and let you see here. Okay, so Bluegrass Gives matches and challenges. So you're gonna make sure you're on your platform, what was that called? Giving Day. And then you can go to matches and challenges. So you can add a match here. So if I have let's see, BGCF Board of Directors match. And then say the BGCF Board of Directors is matching donations. And you can get into any more details that you would want to here. So matching funds available. So you could say, wow, $5,000. So then you can say here, it's dollar for dollar, 2 for 1, 3 to 1. You can update images here. Sponsor donor details. So you could say BGCF Board of Directors. So this is where I said you could get into specifics, and you might want to say, oh, it's going to start Giving Tuesday. If you don't care, it would just be open. If your donor doesn't care, you can have it start when early giving starts on November 25th. That's up to you. Or you could say it only starts on Giving Tuesday. It's really between you and your donor. I would say that you and the match donor. And then, minimum $10. And then you can set there could be no maximum. So you could say it's matched dollar for dollar on gifts of any amount. So this is a $5,000 match. If a donor went in and gave that $5,000, that could use up the match right away. And so that's fine. That's up to you. If you say the match is up to $100 per donor, that's also up to you. So if you have this enable auto matching checked, that means if I went in and I gave $100, that would show on your total as $200. So it's going to automatically match those gifts. We've had organizations call and say like, oh my gosh, how do I turn this off? Because they don't want it to seem like they've surpassed that match already and don't need other donations. Does that make sense? So that's up to you. You can enable auto matching or you can turn it off. I would say if those, that is for your totals. If those gifts don't come in, if the match donor's gift does not come in through bggives.org, then you're responsible for collecting that donation from that donor. Does that make sense? So like if the donor wants to send you a check before, sometimes match donors, or they're like, I'm going to give $10,000 to this organization. I would rather they use it as a match. Maybe you get the check before, maybe you get it after. That's between you and your donor. So you could say, oh, so I guess you have to do it in time. We're all learning. All right, save. So let's see. How do I go to my organization giving days? Let's see how that looks for your profile. Oh, it might not show up because giving isn't live. And I will find out about that. Or it may not even show up until, let's do a little, it might not show up until it's live. Does that make sense? But let's do a test. Let's do today. All right. No, I just think it's not showing up because giving isn't live yet. I'm going to find out about that. So I got a question. I have some donors that I'd love to ask me matches, and I know they have a BGCF account. How would that work? So you can talk to them if they're willing. They would just, they could, we could process that. I would say they would still make a gift to you. We can talk about it. If they are willing to do it, reach out to me and I will get you in touch with our grants team and see about the best way of doing it. It might just depend on the donor, how they want to fund the gift, things like that. So if they have a BGCF account, we could process a grant to you. And I still think we wouldn't process it through the site. It wouldn't go to the Bluegrass Gives fund. It would still be a grant to you, but I don't know. We can get creative. Reach out to me if the donor is willing and they have a fund with us. So we're happy to work with donors on that. All right, so that's the BGCF match. I don't know why it doesn't show up on the site, but I'm gonna, oh, there it is. It just might take a minute. So there you go. The matches will show up there. Same as, she said confidently, same as challenges. So how challenges work. So this like unlocks the gift, right? So BGCF board challenge. Once we raise, so we've had donors do this like for other organizations in our Give 828 Lex Giving Day. They said if they raise $500, I'll grant them $500. So 5,000 we get put more details in here. So $5,000 BGCF board But if it's like a corporate sponsor and they have a website, you can put all that information in there. You can put that there. Again, do that, the end time, challenge type. So, okay, this we talked about dollar donor or donation. It can be you get $5,000. It could be once we raise $5,000, we get $5,000, or um once we have a goal of getting 100 donors, we get $5,000, whatever. So you can do dollars, donors, or donations. Like donor would be a certain number of donors, and then donations would be a certain number of donations. So a donor can give more than once. That would be a little goofy. I don't know why you would do a donation challenge versus a donor challenge, but donations, like if you've wanted a donor to give like 10 times that day, I don't know why you would do that, but um, you could. All right, so we'll see. Again, it might just take a minute. Sometimes it just takes a minute to populate, so. Um, okay, so we'll see. It might just take a minute for that to populate. We'll go back over there. So I just got a question. What if donors are not particularly computer savvy? Um, unfortunately, we are not able to accept those offline donations. If you have donors who just don't want to give online, I guess you can just accept a check from them on your own and just say thank you, and it, wouldn't be eligible for matches and prizes. Um, you could also I have heard of groups doing like having like a computer lab sort of set up at their offices, and say if you want to give um to us during Bluegrass Gives and you want extra help, you can come down to our office this day and we can help you process this gift. I would say those are kind of the two options um for now. I would say I can get the details about the site security, and Plaid is super secure, Stripe is super secure. Um, if that makes them feel better, but if they're just like technologically challenged, you might want to have like a computer lab sort of set up where they could come and process those gifts with help of your staff members or volunteers. I will say, I kind of joke. My mom gives every year, um, and she is not savvy, uh, and she's able to make gifts on our platform, even using her like iPhone 10 or 12. I don't know what version it is. So it is user friendly. It is easy to do, but um, I would say those are sort of your options. We're sort of running out of time. I guess it's nice that people are sort of asking questions. If there's questions, like if you need specific help about like updating your profile, please email me after and we can schedule a Zoom call to kind of go through this so I can see your screen. Um, so I would just think about different ways to engage volunteers. Um, there's power in numbers. So you can get your staff, I would think about Bluegrass Gives, something like this. It's not just a responsibility of your, advancement or fundraising or development staff. It's really like, I would say, a whole team effort on this day. Um, so think about how you can get everybody on your staff involved, whether it's like social media, sharing things, via email, whatever. Just think about how you can get everybody involved. Same with your board members. This is a really great time to activate your board. And it is the groups that are the most successful every year. It's because they have high staff engagement and high board member engagement, not just board member gifts donating. Like you should also have a goal of, we want 100% of our board members to give during Bluegrass Gives. Um, and you're just going to have more success the more people you can get involved. And then thinking about outreach, um, I would say really think about how you are developing your mailing list. And it's a great time. We have 56 days. Think about how you can capture names and emails with everything you do. Get contact lists from your board members. Just think about who you want to be reaching out to in advance of Bluegrass Gives. And I would start thinking about your campaign. You know, you don't want to wait until the day up. You're going to want to send some emails a little bit before, and you're going to want to do some social media a little bit before. So just think about how you can build your following and your email list leading up to this. Okay, I'm just continuing to check and then start thinking about your plan. What you're going to do for outreach, what platforms you're going to use. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, if you're on X or whatever that is, if you're on TikTok. The hard thing about Instagram, and I hate that I don't think they have clickable like links in captions. I really hate that. You can add your link to your bio. Think about where you need to add that unique URL that you have, and I'll show you that really quick. But think about where you need to be plugging that into. Like if you are sending any print pieces in advance in the next couple of months, think about add a save the date. You can create a QR code and link to that URL. You can create I use there's free QR code generators. Canva also has a QR code generator. Anybody can create those URLs. So think about where you need to plug that information in, and think about how often you want to be reaching out to those donors, and create that sense of urgency. I mean, that's why part of the reason why we went down to 1 day this year, because that creates a sense of urgency. They really need to give on Giving Tuesday, right? Like they need to give right now. Because in the past we would have 4 days of giving, we would have multiple days of matches, and people would be like, when's it is, it's Giving Tuesday. They'd be like, when's the best day to give? And I'd be like, actually, it's Friday at noon. Like, that's crazy. So, Giving Tuesday, it will always be a good time to give, whether or not there is a match pool or random prize drawings or things like that. It's always going to be a good time to give. Make sure you're using the right link, and then think about a pre-giving thank you campaign. So this is a great way to sort of engage some staff and some board members. Look at those lists of who gave last year or who's given to you in the past, and say, like, we are so thankful for your support. Send them a little postcard, a little email, any way that's free. I would say think about what's free and say, we really appreciate your past donations. We're gearing up for this campaign. Help us reach our goal by giving on Giving Tuesday. So think about that. And then just donors. Oh wait, I wanted to show you where. I think that's the last thing. Yeah. Where you can find that URL. Okay, so this is your URL for your giving page. So this is what you're going to want to copy. You can also edit that, I believe. So see, that takes us to our giving page. So if you want to edit that, I think you go to Manage Organization, Edit Information, and then that's where you can edit that. So just keep in mind, if you want to edit that, you need to do that now before you start sharing that link, because as you can see here, that if that changes, that will not work anymore. But if you want to use any sort of QR code generator, whatever, that's what you can edit that back end of that URL. Okay, I think this is where you add add those causes, and then you can also customize those colors there. Go back to the giving day. There we go. And then you can see that's the whole slug there. So, and then this is, we've also gotten questions about this in the past. This is not us. We are not like endorsing any of these platforms. This is just a quick way to share that on X. I'm obviously not on X, so I don't share that there. But if I wanted to share it on Facebook, that's just an easy way. And those show up. You can, where'd that go? That is what shows up here. So this is not saying you have a Twitter account, you have a Facebook account. This is like connect to Facebook to share. So that would take me to my own Facebook page. And then this would be add to your gift basket. So And then if you want to share that URL, that gives you that link as well. So there's two ways you can find your URL. Also, folks, your donors can find you either by your direct URL that you can share, or they can go here and search for your organization this way. By that way, or like dogs, you know, then you can see here. I don't know why that would show up. So you can add those. See, they had, you know, some different donations. This is a great example of a stretch goal, right? What those different donation amounts can get. They have their story there, photos. That's really cute. I keep losing that. There was one other thing that I wanted to share. Oh, this would be, I think somebody had some issues with this last year, but if you want to put a donate now button on your own website, you could do that. I would also say just like create a link on your own website. What we will do during Bluegrass Gives, especially like we have our own donate now page where like people can give to charitable funds at BGCF. We'll update all that external like donation information, and we will like say, we'll add like a redirect, like if you're wanting to give during Bluegrass Gives, go to this website. So I would think about those different places on your website, social media, things like that, where you might want to redirect people for that one day. Because if they just give to you using your own platform, which is great, I mean, you're still getting a gift, but it's not going to be eligible for matches. So you just want to think about that. And then there was one thing I wanted to show you all. Think about any, we have like 10 more minutes. So continue to think about any questions you need to add here. I'm trying to figure out where I can show you the sample donation page. View donations. That's not it. Content and design. Maybe I should think about this and do it in a different, this is not helpful for you. Donation report. I was just on that. I saw this the other day and I thought this would be really great to show them it. Here we go. Is this it? Okay, yes. This is what I was hoping for. So you can see here, this is a sample of, I can show you what the donation form will look like. And this is what like a donor would see at checkout. And this is just if they have one donation in their account, but most give to more than one. So then they would see here. So I can say the donation amount that I want to give. This is if I didn't just like click on that automatic like giving level. But so if I say $50 here, this just defaults to first and last name, or they can put something here. If I'm like giving, it's the donations coming from me, but it's actually like, I'm giving on behalf of like my company wants to give. I could put that there. You can add, I'm a new donor. And you can also give in honor or in memory of somebody, which is really nice. You know, like I've done that in the past. Sometimes it's really hard to find gifts for like family members. So I make a donation in their name, or like my grandmother was in hospice. I gave to hospice in honor of her. So little things like that. And you can also add a public message. That's optional. So you can, donors can add another organization, or they can go to next. So you can see here, I had $50. I'm not able to give with my donor advised fund, and I'm not able to give with my bank account. It's not even an option for those donors until they hit that threshold. So, and they can see here and hear why that is. So then if I went back here and I said 200, and then I go to next, now I can give with any of these. And bank account. And I don't want to do this because it will actually go through, but you can see here, don't see my credit card numbers. But you can see here, I'm on Chrome. You can see that Google Pay, it's just that easy. And the same would be like, if you're on your iPhone, it would be Apple Pay. If your donors have that information already pre-looked, pre-saved. So, gift, and then they will get a confirmation. I don't want to do that because I'm not giving yet. So I just saw another. Yeah, I'm recording this. After it processes, I will upload it to YouTube. That's usually the best way. And then I'll send those the links out, and they'll be in those emails that like we send. There's one more thing I want to mention to you all. There was a couple more slides about donor stewardship. I think we can touch on that later on. There is a place to sign up. It was in the last email that I just sent as a reminder for this. If you need to add folks to our mailing list, so I generate this mailing list based on the list of admins for your organization. So you need to go in there, and if you want, I can continue to export those, but if you were wondering why people on your staff didn't get they aren't getting the emails about Bluegrass Gives from BGCF, it's because they weren't added as an admin. So there is a link in the email that I sent out about this webinar about adding your staff members or team members or volunteers to our mailing list. Be sure that you add them. It's a MailChimp landing page. Add them to that. That will automatically add them to our mailing list. We'll send out emails at least once a week. We try not to spam you. At least once a week, maybe more often if there's like webinar reminders, event reminders, things like that. So be sure to add them there. Also, if while you're thinking about it, be sure to go look at, we have toolkits available on the site and more webinars and trainings. Those are on the site. I can go on and click on that and show you here. Yep. So these are all linked here. Nonprofit toolkit. A lot of these are generated by Bonterra, but we've done some customization. The only thing we don't have right now is the graphics and downloads. Those will be coming soon. We have a new logo this year. We have some new graphics. So we need to get those. Those will be up there soon. And then, so go ahead and start looking through these. There are some ideas, social media. I would also say if you are pressed for time and staff, as we all are, using AI as a planning tool, I think is a great place to start. Like if you don't even know where to start in terms of like a marketing plan for this, like say, hey, we have a giving event on this day, help me back up and create like a 6-week marketing plan. You can get a nice starting point and then plug in and customize for your own use. I guess I can delete that now. So GiveGab/Bonterra, they have a great library of existing training videos and articles, things like that. So for a lot of these, if you click register, you can go ahead and watch it live. It's like an on-demand thing. For us, this is hosted by Bonterra. This is hosted by us. And then these will be hosted by us. So go ahead and register for these. This will be just like a weekly webinar. And then there's also great videos here. You can watch the slides. Look at all these. So check out this library of tools here. It's actually really great. And then they have a help center. There were times like if you can't find, I was getting emails about like, I can't find my registration receipt. I went ahead, I use this too, registration receipt. And then you can get, step by step, directions on how to do things like matches. What are matches and challenges? And then it will kind of get into all the differences. If they have training videos linked, that's a great thing. So I would go ahead and start exploring some of these things now. And we're like right at noon. I cannot believe I've yapped for nearly 90 minutes. So this was just the first of many training opportunities. What else was there? Webinars, Q&A, we've sort of done. That's something different. Don't sign up for that. If you need to email me, that's the registration email list. You need to be on our other communications email list. So if you have questions specifically about anything, you want help troubleshooting anything specifically, reach out to me. My email is at lauren@bgcf.org. That's usually the best way to get me. I work remotely about half the time. I'm in and out of the office. Cell phone, it's like, well, my phone number is also in right there, but it's usually like you're gonna have to leave me a message and then I'll get back to you. So email is usually the best way. And if we need to set up a specific meeting, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Yes. So I will send out the recording of this webinar and the slides in those email digests. I'll get that out probably today, maybe tomorrow morning. Just sometimes depends on how long it takes to process. But I hope this was helpful. I know it's a lot of information. We have time. We have 56 days to get ready. But Giving Tuesday will be here before we know it. So don't put it off. I'm really excited about all the changes that are coming this year. The other thing was in that email that I sent out. I usually keep like a running list of everything in each email, so you don't have to go back and look at a bunch of different ones. Everything that's sort of relevant will all be sort of like in that digest. We're going to be doing some live streaming on Giving Tuesday. So you can sign your organization up if you're interested in doing that. It'll be like a 3 to 5 minute interview. It'll be totally short. If you've done like an interview like on a morning news program, one of those local programs, it'll be like that. It'll be just like 3 to 5 minutes, super short. But sign up for that. It's a Google form to indicate your interest for that. So that'll be something new this year. I'm really excited about the changes this year. I think anecdotally, I've heard from a lot of groups that are also really excited. I think donors are really excited. It's going to be keyword exciting. It's going to be an exciting, fun-filled day. So thanks for your time today. Again, if you have any questions, just email me, lauren@bgcf.org. We're going to get those graphics and logos and all that stuff updated to the site pretty soon. But yeah, great. Best of luck. Good luck. Great luck with your campaign this year. And yeah, we're here to help if you have any other questions. And we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar opportunity. So have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.